let's talk about The Great Gatsby, but probably not the way you remember it from high school. We're going to look at it as a straight-up warning, a chilling warning about the whole idea of the American dream.
So let me just ask you this. What if that perfect life you see online, the one you're maybe even chasing right now, is just a beautiful lie? It sounds dramatic, I know, but this isn't some dusty old literary question. It's something F. Scott Fitzgerald was wrestling with 100 years ago. And honestly, it's more relevant now than ever.
And that's exactly what makes this story so powerful. By the time we're done here, you're going to see just how Gatsby's epic story, his incredible rise and his tragic fall, is really a mirror for our own modern obsessions. We're talking status, wealth, and that dangerous trap of trying to relive the past. Okay, so to really get Gatsby, you have to start in one place. It's the most important symbol in the whole book, that little green light across the water. So this is the first time we really meet the man, the myth, the legend, Jay Gatsby. And he's not at one of his crazy parties. He's not driving some flashy car. Nope. He's all alone, in the dark, and he's trembling, reaching for something he can't quite touch. This one image, it's everything. It's the key to his whole character. So, what in the world is he reaching for? Well, that green light, it's not just a light on a dock. It's his dream, made real. And yeah, on the surface, it's about a girl, Daisy, but it's so much more than that. It represents a perfect moment in his past that he's obsessed with getting back to. It's this belief that if he just gets enough money, he can actually hit rewind on his life and grab that perfect future he's built up in his head. And this right here, this is where 100-year-old book gets super real for us today. See, Gatsby's green light was just across the bay. Our green lights, they're on our screens 24/7. It's that perfectly curated life, that flawless vacation, that dream job that everyone else seems to have. We're all kind of doing the same thing, aren't we? Staring at some distant, glowing thing and thinking, if I can just get that, I'll be happy. But here's the thing. For every one of those glittering mansions, there's a dark side, a forgotten place that bears the cost of all that glamour. So now, we're going to take a sharp turn away from the champagne and straight into the ashes. I mean, look at this. The contrast couldn't be more extreme. On one hand, you've got these incredible palaces of the rich, but smack in the middle, connecting them to the city, you have this, the Valley of Ashes. It's literally an industrial wasteland, a solemn dumping ground where all the byproduct of that fancy life ends up. It's the place where glamour goes to die. And watching over this whole grim scene, you've got these giant, creepy eyes on a faded old billboard, the eyes of Dr. T.J. Eckelberg. And you have to understand, these are basically the eyes of God, in a world that's completely forgotten about right and wrong. They just stare down. Not angry, just sad, judging all the waste and the carelessness of the rich folks who just speed right through, never once thinking about the people who are stuck there. All right, let's head back to Gatsby's place. Back to those parties that were the stuff of legend. On the surface, they're everything you imagine when you think of the Roaring Twenties. But if you look just a little bit closer, you start to see that they're also incredibly lonely. I mean, the sheer scale of these things is just insane. Every weekend, an entire army of staff would show up. Get this, every Friday, 5 whole crates of oranges and lemons would be delivered. And by Monday, they were just a mountain of used up peels. It was a machine designed for pure, beautiful, and totally disposable fun. So you're probably wondering, who are all these people? Well, here's the crazy part. Almost none of them were actually invited. They just showed up. People would just get in their cars and end up at Gatsby's, wandering through his house like it was some kind of theme park. The only ticket you needed was to be curious. And here is the biggest irony of all. Right in the middle of all this wild partying, there's Gatsby. And he's not drinking. He's just watching. He's not part of the fun. He's standing outside of it. He is the quiet, lonely center of a hurricane he created himself. And he did it all for one reason. He was hoping one specific person would wander in. So the guest list was just this random, chaotic mix. Strangers, people trying to be seen, even freeloaders like this one guy Klipspringer, who was nicknamed the Boarder because, well, he basically just lived there.
These parties were never about making friends. They were a giant, shiny net that Gatsby threw out every weekend, hoping he'd catch that one person. And that one person, of course, was Daisy Buchanan. But you have to get this. To Gatsby, she wasn't just a woman he loved. Oh no, she was the prize at the end of the game. She was the living, breathing symbol of everything he wanted: the wealth, the status, the perfect past he was trying to reclaim.
Think about it. His entire life, that ridiculous mansion, all those parties, every dollar he made, it was all designed for one goal, and he'd been working on it for 5 years. He met her when he was a young soldier with no money. He lost her to a super rich guy, and then he spent every single day since then becoming a man so rich she couldn't possibly ignore him. The whole thing was just a massive, elaborate plan to get her to notice him.
Okay, this next scene is so important. It's when Gatsby and Daisy are finally reunited and he's giving her the grand tour of his house. And then she starts sobbing. But she's not crying because she's so happy to see him. No, she's crying over his shirts. His beautiful, expensive, imported shirts. She's completely overwhelmed by the solid proof of how rich he is, the very thing she married her husband for. It's a moment of regret for sure, but it's all about the money. And that is the absolute heart of his tragedy. For 5 long years, Gatsby wasn't seeing Daisy for who she was. He was building this perfect version of her in his head, polishing it, adding to it, until the idea of Daisy was way bigger and better than any real human could ever be. He wasn't in love with the person Daisy Buchanan. He was in love with an illusion. And illusions, well, they always shatter when they hit the real world. So even with all that money, all that power, Gatsby ran smack into one last wall, a wall he could never climb over. It's this invisible barrier right at the heart of the American dream, the huge difference between getting rich and being born rich. So you've got Daisy and her husband Tom over in East Egg. That's old money, inherited. Their wealth is just there. It's quiet, effortless. Then you have Gatsby in West Egg. That's new money. His wealth is loud, it's flashy, it's gaudy, because he feels like he has to prove it all the time. For Tom, being rich is who he is. For Gatsby, it's a costume he puts on every day. And you really see this class thing play out when Daisy finally goes to one of Gatsby's parties. She isn't charmed. She's not impressed. She's horrified. It's all too much for her. The raw energy, the newness of it all. It's just vulgar to her. And in that moment, it becomes crystal clear that she will never, ever be a part of his world. She belongs to hers. In the end, Gatsby's biggest mistake was believing the American dream was just about money. He thought if he had enough of it, he could erase who he was, buy his way into their club, and literally turn back the clock. His tragedy was finding out the hard way that all the money in the world couldn't buy him the one thing he really wanted, a place where he belonged. So that brings it all back to us, doesn't it? Gatsby's story is really a warning sign. It makes you stop and ask yourself, what's my green light? What's that thing out there on the horizon that I am chasing, thinking it'll fix everything? And the really tough question is it real? Or am I just chasing a beautiful and maybe even dangerous illusion? I would genuinely love to hear what you think in the comments. And hey, if this made you think, do me a favor and hit that like and subscribe button. And maybe share this with a friend who's chasing a green light of their own. Thanks so much for watching.